runs it in the end zone, touchdown. Feed it, replace. Castle, got a three. Somehow, some way forward.
Oh my goodness, did you see that? He hit.
And now they got him. Again, floats it complete and into the end zone. His first and goal from the 4. Daniels is going to walk it in for the touchdown.
What is up inside the locker room? We are back with another episode. And before we get started, we got a lot that we'll be talking about. And before my co-host join, let me just let y'all know this. We got MLB talks around the league, NBA, NFL. A lot went on in the sports world. But let's get started on this podcast today.
Yo.
What's up? So if y'all want to introduce yourselves today, we got Adam, NFL Playmakers, and we got Michael, my co-host. And
what's going on?
Basically, let's start in MLB.
Let's do it.
Red Sox have swept the Yankees. Benji, do you just want to give your thoughts and opinions on that?
So, yeah, the Red Sox took a 2-1 series win over the Yankees this past weekend. So not the current series that they're currently playing. They're currently playing against the Angels and will try to not get swept for 2 series in a row against them. They're playing at around 7:30, so about actually right now. But, yeah, it was just a great showing out from the Red Sox bats. They hit a lot of home runs that series, but the underlying, I guess, tone and the obviously big news of this that followed very, very shortly after, literally as the series came to a close, the Rafael Devers trade. And the Devers trade, I got the notification while I was at MetLife Stadium volunteering for the FIFA Club World Cup, and it just tore me apart, to be honest, because it was one of my favorite players from the Red Sox from all these years, and he was the last man standing from that 2018 team that won the World Series. But it was just a combination of a lot of things from this front office and from Devers himself. The Giants actually introduced him just yesterday. So a lot going on in the clubhouse and on the field as well. But in terms of Devers' play, he was still, one of the top hitters and the top players in baseball. So it was just painful to see him go. The Red Sox got a return of some prospects, some money, I'm sure, and also pitcher Jordan Hicks from the San Francisco Giants. So sad to see Rafi go, but wishing him the best of luck in the future in San Fran. Adam, what did you think about this trade? I mean, you were the one that literally told me, and I did not believe you at first. I did not want to believe it, but it turns out to be true. Rafael Devers is traded to the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I was sorry to be the bearer of bad news, honestly, but I mean, right now it looks really bad for Red Sox fans, but I mean, Giants are taking the entirety of the contract, so financially it's a big let off for the Red Sox. They get to save a ton of money, and he's not old, but he's not young either. So we'll see how it all shakes out. It might be one of those trades long term. We look at it back in 5 years, and maybe because you're getting the Giants' 4th best prospect in their entire farm system. So if that shakes out and he develops well, you could be looking at another player that's a Rafael Devers level player. So that'll be really interesting. But a little MLB around the league. So the power rankings did not change too much this week. We had a lot. I mean, we're kind of seeing them solidified a little bit. So the Detroit Tigers are still going to be right at 1. So I'll just go through this pretty quickly because most of them are pretty much staying the same. New York Mets are going to be sitting at 2nd in power rankings, just continuing strong level of play. Pete Alonso, Juan Soto. Then we got the Cubs at number 3. Pete Crow Armstrong is continuing an MVP level campaign. Yankees at 4, Dodgers at 5, but those are 2 teams that are just always going to be in the top 5. By the end of the season, there's a good chance they're going to be 1, 2, or 3. Phillies lost Bryce Harper, but really haven't missed a beat. They're just staying right on track. Still doing great. They just did really well against the Blue Jays recently. Then we got Astros at 7. As much as I hate to rank the Astros that high. Being a Mariners fan, I got to do it because they're riding high. I think they're 10 or 11 games over 500 now. And they're winning by big scores, huge margins of victory. Giants are sitting at 8. That's just a beast of a division. And then the Rays are the big mover. Had a really, really strong level of play. They have Junior Caminero, second baseman. He's only 21 years old, and he's only going to get better, and he's already so good. And then the Padres are rounding it out and in the 10 spot. But just a little bit about the Mariners. The series just wrapped up against the Red Sox. They were able to take Game 2 in dominant fashion, 8-0, but Red Sox won Game 1, and then they won as well today, 3-1, behind very, very good starting pitching from Garrett Crochet. But a little bit of history yesterday happened. Cal Raleigh became the first player in MLB history to hit 6 RBIs, hit a grand slam, steal a base, which stole third base and set up for a sac fly. So it was a really big stolen base in the game too. And then to outscore the entire opposing team. So that was pretty crazy stat line and just crazy MLB history. And then Brian Wu went for 7 innings with just 1 hit allowed. He could have probably gone for 8 or 9, but they pulled him with such a large lead. So he's now pitched at least 6 innings in 14 consecutive starts. The last time that happened was Felix Hernandez, I think in 2002. And the only time it's happened in Mariners history to start a season was the big unit, Randy Johnson. So Brian Wu is looking like the Mariners ace right now, but Mariners just got Logan Gilbert back too, and he threw 5 innings with 10 strikeouts in his first game back. So very good to have Walter back. That's Logan Gilbert's name for anyone that does not know that. But that's all I have for MLB at this point. We can move on to, I think we're moving on to the Panthers wide receiver room.
Yes, sir. Panthers.
Yes. So let me start off with this before we jump into the NFL segment. I normally been giving my Blue Jays little updates plus the Rangers. Blue Jays had I forgot the series wins they had in a row, but they were on a streak, went into Philadelphia, and like Adam said, the Phillies, they look fine, and they came and smacked the Blue Jays. But the Blue Jays are back, and we're playing the Arizona Diamondbacks. We won last night. Hopefully we can pull out a win today, currently up 1-0. As for the Rangers, they were in a little slump, but the bats are starting to click again. Everybody's starting to hit, and they're slowly moving up the AL West standings. But let me say this, just because it was the White Sox, I wouldn't take away from what the Rangers have been doing. Although they lost last night, I most definitely think they can beat the Royals Game 2 and Game 3 tomorrow. But with that saying, let's segue into our NFL segment. Bryce Young, year 3. And, last year, after getting benched, he came back and he started to look solid and like a serviceable QB. And this offseason, the Panthers, I guess they took initiative and they got him some more help in the draft and in free agency. So starting off with, and I'll pass the mic to Michael first. What would you say is most important in Bryce Young coming back for year 3? And do you think this can be another leap year? And plus, what do you think about his current wide receivers? Currently he has T-Mac, Adam Thielen, David Leggett, Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn Jr., David Moore. So what do you think about his weapons? What do you think about him coming to year 3? Do you think he's put in a position to succeed?
As far as year 3, I always had a big favor of Bryce Young when he was with Alabama, and I honestly said there was going to be a good pickup for the Panthers and their future as their starting quarterback. Now, like you said, we all know in his first season he was a little shaky. He was getting used to the division, and a lot of people knows he started to pick up a little bit. And one thing we can all know, when it comes down to rookie quarterbacks and when you're dealing with a dominant division as the NFC South, it takes a while to get used to. And, I honestly think Bryce Young's 3rd year will actually go a lot better. His 2nd year was starting to improve a little bit, but I think this year, in year 3, I think he's going to skyrocket at a high level that no one expected him to be And I think Panthers fans are going to see something that they wish they would have seen a long time ago, like his first or second year. So it's a good step for the Bryce Young and the Panthers. Now, as far as the wide receiver room, I think the Panthers, first of all, they killed the offseason with the wide receiver room. They took care of everything they needed. They took my wide receiver and McMillan. Y'all know I was high on him in the draft. But, I'm so highly excited because this makes the rivalry between us and Carolina more intense, and like it always has been with Drew and Cam Newton and Aaron Brooks, and I can go on and on with this list. So it's just determined to now. It's just like, where does this division, where does this rivalry go from here? And I think, with Jimmy Horn and all those other guys, I think these guys are gonna kill it in the wide receiver room. But it's just more of like, will Bryce Young be able to adjust, and will he know how to use his receivers? And not only that, injury problem. It will it come down to a point where some of these receivers have injury problems? Because even though it look good on paper, but I think we can all agree it don't matter how good it looks. What really matters is the health there. Because I've seen too many times where, this list looks great. You got Thielen, you got Horn, you got McMillan, you got all these talented receivers. Then injuries come up, and it's just like, well, darn, not wishing that. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's just coming down to where, like, can this offense adjust with a big weapon that they have now, and has Bryce Young fully developed? But only we will know in like the first 2 or 3 games in the regular season. But I think Bryce Young has a really good step ahead of him, especially with this new receiver room, and then so forth. But I think I answered all your questions. What was the last question you asked me, Deuce? I know it's year 3.
You pretty much answered all of them, Michael.
Okay.
Adam,
Yeah.
Benji. I guess we can go Adam next. What would you give your opinions on, Bryce Young and his wide receiver room, even his running back room, just going on into year 3? Because they got ETN in the draft, they got Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard already, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, they still got him. Yep.
Yeah, so they have a pretty deep running back room too. So.
Yep.
And I keep saying this, Bryce Young has all. I think right now he has the tools to succeed, and the Panthers really win the offseason, said, hey, we know we need to prioritize it. We want our first pick QB to succeed. But Adam,
I'm call it like it is. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I'll start with the running backs since we haven't talked too much about that yet. So Chuba Hubbard got the big extension last year. And the cool thing about all 3 of these running backs, Trevor Etienne included, is they all have that 3-down skill set. They're all really good pass catchers as well. So I expect another good year out of Chuba Hubbard. But they also got Rico Dowdle from Dallas on I think a 1-year, like $6.5 million deal, coming off a 1,000-yard season. So you have 2 running backs that are coming off 1,000-yard seasons. So even if the injury bug does hit, they have the depth to handle that. And then Trevor Etienne, he's only 20 years old. So there's a stat about running backs that enter the NFL when they're only 20 years old, and they have an extremely high hit rate. And I expect the same from Trevor Etienne. We've seen what Travis has done. He was one of the best running backs in football 2 years ago. I expect a big rebound from Travis Etienne, but with Trevor, he's probably not going to do too much in year 1, but he's really, really good at pass catching. He caught 33 of 34 balls last year in college football. So, I mean, you can do the math. That's over 90% catch rate. It's very, very good. So I've already heard that he might have a role on 3rd down. And again, a guy that can step in with that 3-down skill set. So just a little bit on the wide receivers, because I don't need to talk to death too much, but I think McMillan, this is my kind of hot take. I think he's going to join Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson as first-year wide receivers that'll end up top 10 in the NFL as a wide receiver. So it's bold praise, high praise, but I think he's got the prototypical alpha receiver build. From all reports, he's been killing it in practice and mini camps and everything, and he's a great route runner. He does not beat you with speed, but he's got the physicality kind of get that slant inside and play that Michael Thomas role. He can play on the out. He can do everything. And I think Xavier Legette's going to have a huge second year. I've heard the game has slowed down for him, and he. One guy we didn't mention was Jalen Coker. He kind of got outplayed by Jalen Coker, but that's another guy. That's another weapon for Bryce Young. And then Jatavion Sanders going into his second year at tight end. Like they have a ton of weapons. And I hope I left some meat on the bone for you, Ben. But
You definitely did. I got you. All good.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I hope I left some bone on it too for you.
All good, guys. No, that was great. But you guys make great points, and specifically Michael saying, how is Bryce Young going to use, all of these receivers? Because he definitely can. And one receiver that we forgot a little bit was Hunter Renfrow. I know Deuce mentioned him for a second, but Hunter Renfrow is also a Carolina Panther. So, it's a lot of opportunity for Bryce Young and a lot of pieces. We talked about Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. So I think also the interesting thing about this is how they're going to stack up against the Atlanta Falcons as well, because now they have Michael Penix. Kyle Pitts is still on that team, Drake London. So we're just going to see those quarterbacks go toe-to-toe, and it's just going to be very entertaining. And we also even had Drew Brees on our pod even say himself that the division for the NFC division with the Saints, Falcons. Yeah, he even said it himself that the division is wide open for this year. So we'll see who takes that crown for y'all's division this year, and it's going to be electrifying to see. I'm rooting for Bryce Young, and it's going to be exciting to see some Michael Penix finally as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers actually just end up winning the NFC South title. Because honestly, right now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think with Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn Jr., McMillan, Xavier,
Adam
Thielen,
yeah,
right. But the real question here, is though, and I just thought about this: how much of an impact will these guys make? Because even though you got all these receivers, you got a talented receiver room, but at the same time, who is going to put in production? Even though it looks good on my screen,
yeah,
it looks good on my screen. Right, but at the same time, here's the question I have for Carolina fans: one, how's your offensive line? Because we all know that their offensive line was a little shaky. They did upgrade. They did upgrade in that. But how's your offensive line? Number two, do you think guys like Adam Thielen, he's a veteran, but do you guys think that he's back to 100%? He's moving well in practice, but at the same time, I wouldn't be too excited because this is all from experience. I'm not trying to be biased in there like that. I love Adam Thielen, but at the same time, is he off the injury prone? And that's like with other guys, are they off injury prone? Because like I said, even though it looks good, but will it be an impact? Right. Will it be an impact or will it not be an impact? How's the offensive line? Is it good? Is it upgraded? That's the question here. That's the thing. But if all those are checked up on my list, they might end up surprising a lot of people and winning NFC South over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As far as the Saints go, we're not technically there as far as winning the division. We still got little upgrades to make. But as far as the Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina end up either second place or first place in the NFC South side.
I could see second. I really still think it's the Bucs division to win, but Deuce, you haven't had your turn. What are your thoughts on this division and Bryce Young in general?
I'm just gonna say this. I say in like a few episodes back, like NFC South is just between the Bucs, Falcons, the Panthers. This year, it's just a toss-up to me. And as of right now, yes, I still do believe that is the Bucs division, but we could very much well have a Atlanta Falcons team or a Carolina Panthers team, resurge and jump the Bucs, and have a breakout year. This year, and I'm not trying to segue too much off into the NFC South, but this year for the Falcons, this is the first year we really get to see a Michael Penix fully in action, a full season of him.
Yeah.
This year, the Panthers,
and they got the pass rushers finally.
Yes. This year, like this whole NFC, I believe the whole NFC South. Not aside, I'm not trying to get too much shade on the Saints, Michael. But the majority of the NFC South teams went in the offseason and said, "Look, We know what we need to address. This, and that. The Bucks, they went in the draft, addressed what they needed, and got more depth to add to what them the holes. So this division between those three teams is a toss-up. Now, segueing into Bryce Young, and like Michael said, how does injury play a factor? Like, do these people still have injury prone? All that stuff plays a factor, but also the production. I just believe. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. The production from all these wide receivers coming off from injuries in year 2, they have to be up to par with Bryce Young. You can't have a drop off here. Xavier Legette, you can't. Although it was your rookie year, this year you really got in your sophomore year. You cannot have a sophomore slump. You know, your older guys, Adam Thielen, Hunter Renfrow, staying healthy is key. You know, staying healthy is key. Jimmy Horn Jr., he just came, I believe so. If he just came off an injury, staying healthy is key, you know. So that's just the main going into the Panther season, staying healthy, and can these younger wide receivers pick up the production? But
sorry, go ahead.
Do you have something else to say, Adam?
I was just gonna say, like, in the past, like, it used to wait until year 2 to really see a wide receiver shine. Now we're getting spoiled with so many good rookie seasons, but it used to be like the sophomore leap. So I don't want to throw too much shade at Xavier Legette. Like you said, he did deal with some injuries, but I was saying earlier, the game slowed down for him from all reports, and Bryce Young's having a nice connection with him so far in camp. So I just think, like, even if they do deal with injuries, because Thielen's old, and then Jimmy Horn's already dealing with a soft tissue injury, and they're not going to rush him back. But they have so much depth. Like, when you're talking about Ted McMillan, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, Adam Thielen, Jimmy Horn, and then not even talking about Jatavion Sanders at tight end. Like, you could have 1-2 injuries, and then Hunter Renfrow, exactly. Like, you have so many, you almost forget one. That, like, you could have 1-2 injuries, and they're still going to be okay. And Bryce Young's proven last year that he can actually start getting going with not the best supporting cast. So now I think Ted McMillan is just going to fully unlock him going forward. But sorry to cut you off, Deuce.
Yeah, that's all good. But segueing into our next topic, I brought it up because I saw it on Twitter or X, whatever you call it. Do y'all think that if the Steelers do not perform well this year, could this be Mike Tomlin's last year with the Steelers? Do you think this could be could this be his year on the hot seat? And I'm gonna say this. I really do think this could be the year he's on the hot seat. I think if the Steelers organization wants to win, and although, Mike Tomlin has consistently put up over 500 above seasons, I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think they get 6-7 wins at that. But if I'm the Steelers organization, I look at this and I say, we got to have a coach that's going to get us in the playoffs or get us past and get us farther in the playoffs. Let me say that correctly. And I just think Mike Tomlin hasn't shown that for the Steelers organization since Big Ben and them all left. You know, ever since they have really been trying to find who they are after Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Big Ben left, I believe that the Steelers just haven't found that, and they just become mediocre. You know.
Yeah.
So going into this season, and you get DK Metcalf, you get Aaron Rodgers, you pick up Darius Slay, you know, you get all these veterans, right? But my bold take is just, I don't think that with their schedule, I just think on paper these other teams are better. And yes, we still have a time till the season comes, but on paper, I have them winning 6-7 games. And yes, I think that will lead to a Mike Tomlin firing. You know, like I keep saying, if you want to win, in certain situations, you just have to fire the coach. Like for the Cowboys, Mike McCarthy, he wasn't getting us past the divisional round, and he wasn't getting us to where we needed it to be, like he had with Green Bay. Therefore, he was gone. But Benji, I guess we can start with you and give your opinion on, you know, a possible hot seat from Mike Tomlin.
Now, I think maybe the word hot seat might be a little bit too harsh considering this is Mike Tomlin. I feel like also just the fact that the Steelers as an organization have only had about maybe 3 or 4 head coaches all time. You know, so it'd be a huge deal to let go of Mike Tomlin, in my opinion, in just terms of, you know, momentum and just, personnel in the building. But I mean, you even hear it from Steelers fans themselves. I mean, I know a lot of people very close to me are Steelers fans, and they share the disgruntledness they have with head coach Mike Tomlin. But I think another way to look at this as well is to just look at the players too, because those are the ones actually, producing on the field. But then it kind of does not a 360, but it kind of goes back to my main point of, that's also coaching. I mean, we also saw it with the Knicks with Tibbs, and now that's a different sport. It kind of applies here as well, because it's like, do you fire the coach or do you blame the players as far as, why you're not getting to where you want to be? Because we saw last year the Steelers get into the playoffs yet again, but Russell was clearly not, 100% in that game, especially against the Ravens. They got demolished that game. So is that more of a coaching thing for Mike Tomlin, or is it more of a, personnel on the field? Hopefully they re-sign TJ Watt as well for that team. And I'm even hearing reports of a possible Jalen Ramsey signing. So we'll see if they make any more splashes in the offseason to help their chances this year for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. But in my humble opinion, if you had to ask me if I had to bet on Mike Tomlin staying on the Steelers next year or getting fired, I would probably lean more towards him staying on the team. Because like I said, it's just pretty unlikely given the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now if they go out there and win less than what we think, we're not exactly super high on the Steelers for next year, but say they win 4 games, then maybe they take a look at that. But what do you guys think, Adam and Michael? I'll start with Adam first. Do you think that Mike Tomlin is considered to be on the hot seat for the 2025 to 2026 season?
I wouldn't call it the hot seat. I'll call it like the lukewarm seat.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, I think he's got to show some consistency again, which, I mean, that's what he's done his entire tenure so far. But like at the end of the day, it's a business, and he did sign an extension recently that has him linked to the team until 2027, and it's $50 million. So it's not like it's a small amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen it happen in all major sports where coaches sign these giant contracts, and then they, at the end of the day, like the owners don't care, and they just sometimes react to media, sometimes just react to certain things happening. So I mean, I won't say it's impossible, but like that was a great point, Ben, about how they have had very few coaches, and when in doubt, they just keep the coach. And the Steelers are all about building the culture. I think it was Chuck Noll, then Bill Cowher, and then Mike Tomlin. So, and like that's going back to like the 1970s. So
yeah,
most of these coaches are long tenured, 10, 15 years, if not longer. I just want to give a quick shout out to Aaron Rodgers, though, because I regained a lot of respect for him. Someone else put this together. I can't remember their name, so I can't shout them out right now, but people were saying he was going to go on the Pat McAfee show and make a big giant thing about it, like the decision, like LeBron James.
PTSD.
He signed on a random weekday, and it happened in the middle of the day, and it was like, I mean, it was still a big headline because it was Aaron Rodgers, but like people weren't expecting it. And people thought he was going to sign for $40 million or demanded even. He signed for like a $10 million team friendly deal that can go up to $20 million if with incentives. So the incentives would be probably like making the playoffs, and then if he were to somehow go to the Super Bowl. So it's like, if anything, he's created this atmosphere where the team can actually get TJ Watt and lock down TJ Watt now. And I think he's kind of taken a page out of Tom Brady's book, who would always take less money, would always take pay cuts in favor of the team. So, I mean, maybe it took until the final year for Aaron Rodgers to like relinquish this diva title that some people put with him. But honestly, he regained a lot of respect in my book. And I agree with Deuce that I think it's probably 6 to 7 wins, maybe 8 wins, but also they somehow find a way to always win one game against, like, one of the 2 games against the Ravens, even though the Ravens are a better team often. So it's like, you never know with these divisional clashes. So like, It wouldn't surprise me if they end up 9-8 at the end of the year again and just
Sneak into the
the
wild card, yeah.
playoffs or 10-7 and sneak into the playoffs. They've still got the running game with Jalen Warren, and then they added Caleb Johnson in the draft. And like Deuce alluded to earlier, you added DK Metcalf as well. But Michael, do you have anything you want to add to this? Thoughts on Mike Tomlin's, thoughts on the Steelers in general?
Yeah. So I'm gonna start off with Mike Tomlin and in the hot seat first. I honestly do not see him in a hot seat right now at this point, just because I just don't think his job is in jeopardy right now. But like y'all said, it really depends on how he performs as a head coach during this season. Can we see him win 5 or less games? Like we've all agreed on that the Steelers can win less than 5 games, or it's possible. It's not likely, but it is a chance. What if the Steelers end up winning more than 5 games? You just never know. Like I said, yeah, despite their schedule, despite of the roster, and a lot of people saying, oh, despite Aaron Rodgers, he's 41, but I don't really care about Aaron Rodgers and his age. And like I said before, it's not about the age. It's about the physicality. It's about how much arm strength. Does Aaron Rodgers still have the arm strength that he's had in recent years? Does he still have the field presence? Does he still have the mobility to get out of the pocket? Even though he had that Achilles injury, can he still move? Because, my dad told me about this. Normally, when a lot of players have Achilles injuries, it takes them a long time to adjust back to their normal ways. So it really just determines that. Can Aaron Rodgers, adjust even with the Achilles injury? Does he still have the physicality to do what he needs to do as a starting quarterback? Now, backtrack. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit because I jumped ahead a little bit. But as far as Mike Tomlin, is his job in jeopardy? No. And I say that because I wrote this down. And I'm gonna go down. I'm just gonna go down a list here. The reasons for him not traditionally being in the hot seat. One, he never had a losing season, right? Tomlin has never had a losing season in his 17 seasons with the Steelers. And I know we can all agree on that because Mike Tomlin is an impressive head coach for the Steelers organization. No doubt about it. I've never had any negative thing about Mike Tomlin. I've always been high and mighty of Mike Tomlin and his coaching ability. I don't think the Steelers are gonna let him go anytime soon. But like Benji, like you said, Adam, like you said, it'd be a huge loss. Huge loss if the Steelers did that. Now, my second point: the organization culture. The Steelers are known for their stability and typically don't make hasty coaching changes. We have not seen any hasty things from the Steelers as far as Mike Tomlin. The Steelers organization love Mike Tomlin. If it wasn't for Mike Tomlin, who else were they going to depend on? Mike Tomlin is, and I'm gonna go spiritually here, but he's a grace from God when it comes down to the Steelers organization and their fan base. And I think Mike Tomlin can get Aaron Rodgers. I think with Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, I think that duo and what they can do, I think that's going to be something that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows, in my opinion. And there's no doubt about it, especially in that division with the Oakland Raiders. They might end up being better than Oakland Raiders. I mean, I'm just saying. You just never know. Now, my second point, his contract. His contract go all the way through the 2027 season. Like Adam said, $50 million don't seem like, like it's a lot of money to be losing. But at the same time, it's not really about the money, about how much these coaches has. It's more about can this coach, because you can give a coach money. You know what I'm saying? That's like with Deion saying at Jackson State. Deion didn't really care about the money. All he was worried about was getting production and getting Jackson State to where they are. Even though Jackson State could not pay Deion that much amount of money, Deion already had the money. He was more about teaching these guys because Tomlin, he's not really worried about the money. I don't think he is. I think he's more worried about his reputation, his coaching ability, and what the history he's done for the organization. But if they do let him go, I wouldn't be surprised. It just determines how this season goes. The reputation, like I said, he is generally respected in the league and nationally for his coaching abilities. No one has never had anything negative to say about Mike Tomlin as far as his coaching resume. And I think Mike Tomlin can either surprise or he can disappoint a lot of people. It really just determines how the first 5 games of the Steelers schedule goes. And if he can win, at least 4 or win their whole 5 games, then we got something to talk about. But if he doesn't, I mean, his job might be in the hot seat. But I'm gonna switch over. Reasons for hot seat: lack of playoff success. The Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016, despite consistently making the playoffs. Now, Mike Tomlin, if there's one thing I need to say to you, bro, brother man, or Mister, whatever, whatever you want to call him, try to get some playoff wins. The Steelers have known to be one of the top organizations, and this is recent years. I think the Steelers have like 5 rings right now, or 6 or
Yeah.
6.
Hmm.
Try, if I'm Mike Tomlin, try to continue that success. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got Darius Slay, you got DK Metcalf. Try to build off that. I think the Steelers can actually try to make the playoff, but at the same time, you got to at least win at least 1 or 2 in the AFC side of the playoffs. Okay?
Yeah.
Questionable decisions. At some point, questionable strategic decisions, particularly in the 2024 season, has evidence of a need for change. Now, the reason why I say that is because there have been a lot of sports analysts talking about Mike Tomlin's decision making isn't really the best. And, that is true. But at the same time, there is no such thing as a perfect coach. I think despite his lack of decisions, he's still a good coach. He's still, in my eyes, a role model for many other coaches. There are many other kids that want to be coaches. So I don't think he's traditionally in the hot seat. But if I'm Mike Tomlin, it's more like this is your severe weather warning. And I'm gonna use weathercast on this one. This is your severe weather warning. If you cannot, I'm just saying, like, look, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that word because you have severe and very severe, and very severe is in the hot seat, in my opinion. But he's severe, and like I say, he's severe. What I mean when I say severe, he's not in the hot seat. But if he does not produce this season, or if they miss the playoffs, it's kind of like, you're kind of in a
not this
position
game.
where we're about to let you go.
Well, and you mentioned culture, and like he's one of the best culture builders in the NFL, if not the best. And you're bringing in 2 big personalities in DK Metcalf, who gets in a lot of little scrappy fights with cornerbacks during games,
Yeah.
and has got his
Yeah.
fair share of penalties. And Aaron Rodgers, another really big personality that sometimes can be a detriment to the locker room, but I think he's the perfect coach to be coaching the 2 of them together. And I know DK Metcalf was recently saying that the number one thing he's been.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Adam. I'm sorry.
No, I
I'm
know.
sorry.
These are some great highlights. They're great highlights.
That was a
I
crazy
was about
catch,
to
man.
say this
Yeah,
this
yeah.
game, man. This game's giving me some PTSD. But continue, Adam.
Let me shut up, Adam.
The number one thing about DK, or number one thing DK has said about Aaron Rodgers is when the play breaks down, he's been so impressed about how he can still like manipulate the defenses and command the offense. And I mean, that's when he shows his veteran leadership and his years in the NFL, with all of that off script stuff. And also when you get to the line of scrimmage and you see something that's not right and the personnel is not right, he's the type of quarterback that can change it all, like comparable to Peyton Manning in that way. Peyton Manning is probably the best in NFL history. Him and Tom Brady at walking up the line of scrimmage and just changing the play on a dime because they see personnel lined up in a certain way. They see a blitz coming or whatever, switch it to a run play. But Deuce, do you wanna jump in here? What are your thoughts on this one? You did already.
I mean, I can really give like another take. And I'm gonna say this: when you're a coach that has a status and maintains a reputation with the organization for so long, that plays a huge factor into like determining whether, hey, like I'm be on the hot seat or not. You know,
Mm.
we've seen time and time again, like these coaches that are with like these organizations for so long, Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, even Sean McVay, if you know,
Sean Payton.
yeah, Sean Payton. So all these you get like, even though you have these losing seasons, previous winning records and accolades in basically previous seasons can back the talk up for a coach. Now, like y'all said, I think this year maybe he won't get fired, but like if they don't do good, I think maybe it's in the Pittsburgh's front office, like, hey, this is just something to keep on the back of our head. If they start going into continuous losing seasons,
Mhm.
as we predicted, we
Mhm.
don't think they're gonna have a winning season, but we don't know. They could very much have a winning season. If these veterans they've signed, DK, Aaron Rodgers, and all of them perform well. But with that being said, if they have like 2 losing seasons in a row, like if I'm the organization, maybe I don't fire him, but I start to look into it, like just keep it in the
Yeah.
back of my head. But with
Mhm.
that being
Well,
said, I very much well believe that, like y'all said, the culture, that's important too. And I think Mike Tomlin has really achieved that, maintaining what the Steelers culture is. And yes, these new players will bring something new to it. Also, with that being said, I think like many people, including me, are advocates for Will Howard. I think
yeah.
over time, if you give Will Howard the keys and keep developing him, maybe he could be, your next Big Ben that y'all had in the 2010s, early 2000s. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about Mike Tomlin this year, but I mainly think next year, let's just hypothetically saying, if he has a losing season this year, next year, if he going into it like, hey, this year is your like prove it year.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
with all that being said, jumping into the Jets side on the AFC East, the Jets have just signed a new kicker, and I know Benji wanted to
Yes,
give
sir.
some of an update about that. So Benji, I'm passing the mic off to you. What are your thoughts, opinions about that?
So, guys, this guy has the most amazing nickname ever. His nickname is the Thicker Kicker, Harrison Mevis. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But he used to play in the UFL for the Birmingham Stallions, and he made 95% of his field goal attempts. So that's an impressive stat line there. And my computer is glitching. Sorry about that. I'm back. So yeah, we signed a new kicker after Greg Zuerlein kind of wet the bed, to be honest, last year, if we're being quite honest. And the Jets just released also kicker and Anders Carlson, the other brother of another NFL kicker from the Oakland Raiders. They just released him, so now there's not really a question mark right now in terms of the kicker race for the New York Jets. So I mean, shout out to Membu as well. He went to Mizzou as well, so I'm sure he had some influence in this signing. But it's a multi-year deal, so it's not, obviously you can pretty much change your kicker at any point in the season. But I'm rooting for him, and I'm hoping he could be her kicker for years to come, and we'll just see what he got.
Yeah, I love kickers in the NFL because like they all often have so much personality, and this is just adding
Mm-hmm.
another one into the mix.
Facts.
But this kind of connects really well because we're talking about the Jets, and they play the Steelers week 1, and I
Yep.
think that's going to be a huge like. I mean, you can't say it's a must win in week 1,
Mm.
but that could be a huge game for both franchises for this season. Who's going to do better in the season? Not that they're in the same division, but like it's going to be like
It's gonna be
it's
huge
a big
game.
thing
Yeah.
to go 1-0. And I think the Steelers go 1-0, then hey, we could be looking at playoffs again. The Jets go 1-0, we could be looking at the Jets being a riser and possibly being a team that finishes behind the Bills and maybe ends up going like 9-8, 10-7, and makes playoffs.
Who
You
knows? Yeah.
can't rule it out, and that's what's so exciting about the beginning of the season in the NFL every single year. But just one final note, I know we kind of talked the Steelers to death, but the reason I don't think that Tomlin is going to be on the hot seat is because think about it. You have Aaron Rodgers and Will Howard, and then otherwise you only have Mason Rudolph. So if Aaron Rodgers does retire after the season, which at this point is probably likely, you don't want to fire your head coach as well, because then you're going to be looking at Will Howard in year 2, maybe going into the year as the starter.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have a brand new head coach, and we've seen what that has done to Trevor Lawrence. And maybe Trevor Lawrence is finally going to get some stability with Liam Cohen, but it's hard to switch offensive coordinators and hard to switch head coaches every year and find success in the NFL.
And also
but, yeah.
switching off a QB after he starts off 4-0. I mean,
Yeah,
just
that's true.
Just
That's
saying.
true.
Just saying.
I think the Steelers would have done a lot better if they just kept with Fields for sure, especially with like the way they play the ball, the way they like to run the ball and play just good defense and just sneak out wins and eke out wins.
Yeah. So with that being said, jumping back into the NFC South segment, and this is for the Saints, and right now we got the quarterback race between Spencer Rattler and what's called, I can't think of the round. It was second round pick.
Tyler Show.
Yeah,
Tyler
second round
Show,
pick,
yeah.
Tyler Show. So I was thinking it, Michael, Tyler Show versus Spencer Rattler. And if it doesn't go up to par, would you be in the idea of trading for Jameis Winston, and maybe, if the Giants just don't really have a need for him, would you be acceptable to just having Jameis Winston just for 1 year, or would you just say tank and get a top quarterback in the draft for next
Manning,
year?
Archie.
I'm gonna be honest here. Even though I love Jameis Winston, I have nothing against Jameis Winston. He brings so much energy to the table. When he was when he was with the Saints, absolutely. The guy has such a great personality. He has great leadership and everything like that in particular. And even Cam Jordan even said that he wants James to come back. I'm not against it, but I just don't think as far as the state organization, they're not gonna go with that. They're not gonna go with that. Now, I'm not saying I'm not against it. I mean, I'm highly favored of James coming back and starting over and doing what he can. But I think me and all Saints fans can agree on this. The organization is not going to bring James back only because there is a sense of production in the Saints quarterback room right now between Tyler Shaw and Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler has started for the Saints before, but he hasn't really had a healthy roster and he hasn't had a healthy offensive line. It's kind of like with Bryce Young's situation. It just really determines do I think we developed on the offensive line? I think we have. I'm expecting a lot of big things from Kevin Banks Jr. Big bank. He's already killing it from recent notes that I've been hearing. He's already killing it, and it's likely he'll be the starter on that offensive line. And the list goes on. And I think Brandon Cooks. A lot of people think Brandon Cooks is not gonna do much. I'm not expecting him to do too much of anything, but even though, he's 31, but that doesn't matter to me. Brandon Cook is still quick to me. He's still shifty to me. It's just more about, how is Kellen Moore going to use him in his offensive scheme? Because, I've talked about this before. You can have a good player, but at the same time, it's just depends on the offensive scheme and will he fit in it. Here's the thing. But as far as Jameis Winston goes, I just don't think the Saints organization is going to go with him. I think they're going to just depend more on, Tyler Shaw or Spencer Rattler because they're young guys. I mean, Spencer Rattler's younger, but I just think it's going to determine to where it's either going to be Tyler Shaw or Spencer Rattler as the starting QBs and also the Saints' future as far as us rebuilding. I just don't see Mickey Loomis going for Jameis as far as trade goes. I just don't see it happening, guys.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, you spend a second, you got to see what you have.
Not for sure.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say quickly that I feel like this mainly kind of sparked up again. Also, is because rumors are starting that the Giants want to have Jackson Dart as QB2, and we said that I think a few weeks ago. That he very much could cannot speak. Sorry about that. That he very could well be the number 2 quarterback for the New York Giants. So we'll see how that plays out. If you guys want to segue into the NBA now, I think that would be a good time to do that.
Yes, but before we do segue into the NBA, let me just say this. breaking news out of today: Jair Alexander has signed.
Oh, that's
with,
right. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Completely
Jair
forgot about
Alexander
that. Yep.
has signed with the Ravens, reuniting with Lamar Jackson. And I'm actually going to pass this off to Adam to give you some more of the trade detail. I mean, not trade deals, but signing details, because he can give you better, more of the contract and stuff. But Adam, passing the mic off to you.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't have much on the contract
It's
perspective,
a
but
sorry. I
go
got
ahead, go
you.
ahead.
It's a 1-year, $4 million deal worth up to $6 million, I believe, per Adam
Okay, so
Schefter.
yeah, it's like a it's a play it deal. Like it's a prove it deal is actually the better way to put it.
Mhm.
But the Ravens, after having the top defense in football with Mike McDonald, and then they lost Mike McDonald to the Seahawks. Of course, was the Seahawks head coach last year. Going into year 2, I expect Seahawks to have a dominant defense,
Mhm.
but the Ravens, they were looking for a way to bounce back. Of course, they have Kyle Hamilton, they have Roquan Smith, they have some very, very nice pieces. And then they got Malachi Starks in the draft. So to add Jair Alexander,
Nate
who
Wiggins
is
is
going to
back
be,
there too.
and Nate Wiggins,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Nate Wiggins played very, very good, and I think it was year 1 last year. So you're gonna have a hungry Jair Alexander. So like that's really important too, because he's battled through some injuries. He's gonna have to be looking to do everything right, because I mean, at the end of the day, that guy wants to ball out and then sign a big contract again next year. So if he proves that he can be the dominant Jair Alexander, which not taking anything away from his play on the field, when he has played, he has been a very good cornerback in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. But at this point, he's probably not even a lock to start. He probably will end up starting as the CB2, but it gives them a lot of roster flexibility, because Malachi Starks is that hybrid safety that can play a little bit of corner, can play some nickel, can play box safety. So it gives a lot of versatility, and that's what the Ravens love to do. Just you don't know who's coming from where, basically.
Yeah, so segueing into the NBA, and before we talk about the KD trade rumors, let's start with NBA Finals. You know, it's Game 6, and I'm gonna be first to say this. I said multiple times, Thunder. I had Thunder in 6. I didn't change from that. At times, I did want to change. I did want to kind of say like, hey, my prediction low key may be wrong, but we're inching on Game 6. I think the Thunder can close out Game 6. And here I'm gonna just say my quick little 1-2 notes. This whole series, I think what it really came down to is what team can close out the game the most. And aside from Game 2, you saw the Thunder close it out in Game 4. I'm not Game 4, but Game 5, I believe. Or yeah, Game 5 and Game 4. You saw them both close it out. And then we saw in the earlier games, Game 1 and Game 3, we saw the Pacers were able to close out these games. So it's really been coming down to what team, in my opinion, who's coming down in the fourth quarter and who can close these games out. Both of these teams have a well-oiled bench that they can constantly rotate. But this is why I'm gonna keep saying this. I think that also comes with the question. If you have everybody on the depth chart that you can everybody's reliable, do you have that one star that can really step up? And I know Tyrese Halliburton is our star. Him and Siakam are our 2 Pacers stars. But I want to compare that to Jalen Williams and SGA in a sense. Those two, like I think in the finals is the biggest stage. And honestly, you have to really be on your A game. And although Tyrese Halliburton is hurt right now, even before then, I think there were just games where he just really wasn't, giving. I'm not gonna say giving it 100%, but just really looked like the superstar out there, till come the fourth quarter or crunch time. But you have players like J-Dub, Chet, and SGA, and it's showing these last 2 games that look dominant, through all 4 quarters, So I just most definitely think it's a factor of who's closing it out, but also you're just having your star players having to really step up. And yes, I just think just the Thunder, and I'm saying it short in a short sense. I think the Thunder's key role players have stepped up than the Pacers, and I think that's what's hurting the Pacers, because you rely on Tyrese Halliburton and Siakam, and they're not putting over the top numbers compared to the Thunder. And we just saw Jalen Williams put up 40 points last game as to Halliburton not shooting well from the field, So before I pass this off to Adam, I'm just going to say this. If the Pacers want to have any chance at coming back, I think one, Halliburton's injury is going to play a huge key factor because he may not even play game 6. And that's what I've been hearing from report. Yeah, so that's going to be a huge key factor. And can players like Siakam, Miles Turner, can all of them really step up and say, like, hey, I'm like the number 1, number 2 role since Halliburton's out? And also, can our bench and depth chart players, we've seen like TJ McConnell, they have their games where they play amazing. But I'm talking about in a sense where the games they've lost, because in all honesty, the Pacers have lost momentum, losing 2 straight. Yes, you go back to Indiana, but right now I think you losing 2 games straight, it's just the momentum's on your favor. So your key guys and your bench players are going to have to step up, So passing the mic to Adam, what are your thoughts on this finals and his injury?
Yeah, it was a really interesting game. So, I mean, obviously you had Tyrese Halliburton going out with a calf injury, and then he came back, didn't exactly look the same. But I think he ended up with 6 points. So, I mean, you mentioned having 2-star players, and you mentioned the role players. With role players, you're always going to have games where they show up and where they don't. Alex Caruso has probably been the best role player for either team, as just scoring 20 points in 2 games. Those were 2 victories for the Thunder both time. But SGA, he's the constant force. He's doing it every single game. I think he has the 3rd highest scoring point total in finals in NBA history, only behind, I think, Rick Barry in the 60s, or if it wasn't Rick Barry, it was someone else in the 60s, and then Michael Jordan. So that's really high praise. It was like 32 points per game going into this last game. But shout out to Jalen Williams, or J-Dub, as a lot of people call him. As you mentioned, he had 40 points, but it wasn't just last game. Over the last 3 games, he's had 91 points. So even if you take out the 40 points, so then that would be 51, divide that by 2, like that's still 25.5 points over a 2-game span. Or if you break it into like all 3 games, that's over 30 points per game. So again, if that was over an entire series, you'd be looking at that in historic company. So what Jalen Williams is doing is incredible. And some people are calling the last game the Jalen Williams legacy game. And I think he's just showing the world that he is actually a superstar level player. And he's just such a cool cat too. Like, I love his personality. Like, every time he gets interviewed, like he's just like such a lovable guy.
Job's not finished.
He's calm-minded.
Yeah, job's not finished, and like he's just a guy you want to support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Benji or Michael, if y'all have any points y'all want to give, like really quick.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it would be a huge loss for the Pacers if Halliburton did not play. I mean, he's the leader of the team, but I think him being a game time decision, it is a right calf tightness or sore. I don't know the specific terminology for that injury, but it is his calf. So hopefully he does play. I think he will play personally, because I mean, this is finals or go home for the Pacers right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. But Michael, any final thoughts on the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I'm gonna touch base on that Halliburton's injury and performance. I wrote this down myself. Halliburton's right leg injury has clearly affected his play, and he struggled to make shots in Game 5. He also committed he committed a season high number of turnovers in Game 5, indicating a potential struggle with both of his physical and mental game. And I think if he can't turn that around, then the Pacers can end up losing this series. Even though it's 3-2, I honestly think the Pacers have a little bit more fight in them. They might end up pushing this game to about maybe Game 7, and the game will just be determined in OKC. But it's a 50-50. But as far as OKC, I will say this: them leading the finals and stuff like that, they have the strongest odds. Expert predictions are basically the same. It's just going to come down to momentum. The Thunder have built momentum throughout the series and have shown the dominance in several games. The only thing I want to see from SGA is to keep doing what you're doing. Don't take your foot off the gas pedal. The Thunder um, have picked up some kind of fire in them to where now it's like they're more physical. Their shots are more falling. HGA is scoring 31 points and stuff like that. So if as long as SGA, not I think his name is Jalen Williams.
Yeah,
If
Jalen.
those guys can continue to contribute and the OKC depth chart, as long as those guys can come off the bench and pick up where SDA and Jalen Williams and all these guys and stuff, then this series could be over. The series could be over to game six could call it. And I got OKC still winning it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pacers end up winning this game and the game is just determined in game seven.
Yeah, and before we jump and close into this NHL segment and then close out our show for the day, KD has been on the trade block, or trade rumors have been circling for the last week, and our teams were that he had previously, or the teams that were rumored that he would go to, were the Rockets, Spurs, Heat, and Timberwolves. And he later came out and said, "Hey, he doesn't want to go to the Timberwolves." So that leaves the Spurs, the Heat, and the Rockets. With that being said, I'm gonna give my opinion on this. I would love to see KD in the Spurs uniform. Pair him next to Wemby and pair him next to De'Aaron Fox. I think that gives you a better playoff push coming into this season or next season. I think the Spurs have the talent in the roster. You got Stephon Castle in the draft last year, up and coming rookie. So you got 2 rookie of the years in a row, basically. So I think all the momentum is on the Spurs side. And yes, I very much well believe that the Spurs could have made the playoffs last year if Wemby and Fox were not hurt, or if Fox would just happen to be on the team earlier. But I think having KD on the team will really elevate, the Spurs team and just really make them have that veteran leadership that will just, make them want to go win. But passing the mic off really quick to Adam, if you want to give your opinions on that.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick. So, I mean, the Spurs and Rockets would be interesting, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to give up something to get Kevin Durant. With the Spurs, I've heard that they're either asking for the second overall pick or Stephen Castle, who you alluded to, who's like an up and coming player. That's the reason I don't necessarily see it happening going to the Spurs. I do like the fit because, I mean, you put Wemby with Kevin Durant, and then why am I drawing a blank on his name right now? But the point guard you just mentioned that they got from Sacramento. Still can't remember. But it would be a great trio, but at the same time, I think they're gonna have to give up too much. And I think just keep going the Oklahoma City Thunder route, just keep adding that young talent, and I think they'll be better off for it in the long term. Same case in the Rockets. Except maybe they could give like a guy like Jabari Smith and someone else and maybe a couple picks. But like Kevin Durant, even at age 35, like he still carries a heavy price tag. That's why I think the best fit, and I think the most likely team is going to be the Heat, because they love to make these blockbuster trades like this. They've done it countless times before, and Pat Riley is a headline maker. He has been his entire career, back to when he was a coach and now as GM. So I see it being him going to the Heat, but it's going to be really interesting to see, honestly, because, I mean, no matter what, Kevin Durant's going to make headlines wherever he goes.
Yeah, I think the main thing that kind of, I guess, disqualifies him to go to the Spurs is, one, reports are saying that he doesn't really want to go to San Antonio, and 2, just the long-term effect of bringing in Kevin Durant for the Spurs, because, they have Wemby, they have De'Aaron Fox, both younger players, but
thank you.
yeah. So if they're looking to add a KD, does he re-sign is the most important question, because I believe his contract is, particular to where he could just, not be back on the Spurs the following year if he were to go to San Antonio. So I agree, Adam. Also, per Scoop B, He believes also that Kevin Durant will end up with the Miami Heat. Sleeper contender for KD. I feel like the Heat are, rising in the category of which teams can land Kevin Durant. We heard rumors of him possibly signing or actually being traded to the New York Knicks, but apparently the Knicks were not interested. So we'll see where Kevin Durant lands at this point in time, being 37, turning 38 in September. But any thoughts on Kevin Durant, Michael?
Yeah, and I wrote these down, and it's a good thing that I wrote these short because I'm not trying to take too much time.
All good.
But here's my breakdown. I have the Houston Rockets in first place of which team is a good favorite for him. And the reason why I said Rockets is because the Rockets are seen as strong contender due to their young, right, and rising defense. However, they lack a go-to scorer, which Durant could provide, right? Um, Spurs. I'm with Deuce on this one. To be honest, I got the Spurs in second place, but I'm highly favored with the Spurs. It's really going to determine between the Houston Rockets and the Spurs, in my opinion. But the reason why I say the Spurs in second place is that the Spurs could form a formidable duo with Durant and Victor. I don't know how to say his name, and I ain't gonna try. And they have the financial flexibility, okay, to add more pieces around them, right? The Spurs have, like I said, they have enough money to, okay, as soon as they get KD, they can build around KD. No doubt about it. Because, like I just wrote down, and I found this out, I did some research. The Spurs actually have enough money to get a few more players and boost up their roster. Now, the Miami Heat, I got them in last place in the top three. The Heat are always in the mix for big moves, right? Especially when it comes to championship contention. And Durant would fit in their win now mentality. And that's my take on all three of these guys. And like I said, I kept it short because I didn't want to take too long with this. But if I had a team to choose from and to call it like it is, I'm going with the Spurs.
I would love that.
I mean, I'm just gonna say this because we in the world of sports, we really never really knows what goes on except the people who are the ones behind the trades and stuff like that. Like people didn't even know Luca was gonna go to LA still, So we never really know. And we could always these three teams that we have right now could, we could even find like a sleeper team come out of nowhere and trade for KD. We just don't know yet,
Right.
But I look at it like this, and this is the only reason why I say the Spurs. I truly believe that I think KD wants to be in a, win now mode. And yeah, if he goes to the Heat, I was saying this earlier, he can go to Miami, and I just don't have faith in their roster right now to compete in the East. And yes, the East is very much up for grabs with Tatum and the Celtics probably being dethroned with Tatum being hurt, And the Knicks, the East is very much up for grabs. But I just think with the roster that you have, KD and Tyler Hero as your 1-2 are not going to get it done, opposed to him going to Houston or San Antonio where he has more pieces. But with that being said, jumping into the NHL, we just had our Stanley Cup finals, and the Panthers won.
Panthers repeat, yep.
Panthers repeat. And Adam, just before we close that, you want to give your little 1-2 on this?
Yeah. Obviously, I was born in Canada. I'm a Maple Leafs fan. After they're out, I just go for any Canadian team. I really, really wanted the Oilers to pull this one out. I wanted, like, Connor McDavid now lands on a list of guys in major sports with three MVPs and no titles. It's not a list you want to be on. Now people are like, will Connor McDavid ever get one? I still think he will. I still think he's the best player in the world. But shout out to the Florida Panthers. They absolutely schooled the Oilers, especially in this last game, winning it 5-1. It was kind of over in the first period. I won't lie. I think they already had three goals in the first period, or at least it was one or two, and then they quickly added another one. And at the end of the day, it kind of came down to the grittiness of the Florida Panthers and also their dominant goaltending from Sergei Bobrovsky, or Bob, as a lot of people just like to quickly call him. And on the flip side, you had Stuart Skinner, the starter, who was pulled in game 3, I believe. And then Pickard came in, and Pickard played really, really well. The Oilers were able to score 4 straight goals. They were able to run it back 4-3. Then Panthers scored, went to overtime. They won in overtime. But long story short, then they came out with Pickard the next game. Pickard got absolutely ran through as well. Then they went back to Stuart Skinner. So when you're playing this like flip-flop game of goaltenders, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals, like it's never a great thing. It's not something you want to see. And the Panthers were dominant. Shout out to Sam Bennett, winning the Conn Smythe Trophy for Stanley Cup MVP. I think he ended the series with a hat trick. He already had 2 goals, then he got the empty netter to score the hat trick in the final game. Sam Reinhart, another great player, and as much as I don't like to say it because I'm not the biggest Brad Marchand fan, he was also amazing, and he gets to lift his second Stanley Cup 12 years apart. So great series for the Florida Panthers. Some people are already talking three-peat. It's really hard to do, especially in hockey, so I don't think it'll happen. At the same time, they have the core, but for anyone saying that it's the Americans Cup and the Canadians haven't won it in like 30 years, the 3 best players in the Florida Panthers, Sam Bennett, Reinhart, and Brad Marchand, all born in Canada. So I'll leave it on that note.
Yeah.
And shout out to Brandon, also from Sports Nuts. He actually just put it in the chat. He said, remember, Tampa Bay did it first. But then he goes, technically Pittsburgh, but Tampa's the better Florida team. So shout out Sports Nuts.
He's also a Lightning fan. I'll throw that in there.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. So with that being
Take us
said,
home, Deuce.
before we wrap up this episode, we covered a lot today, but in the world of sports, there's going to be a lot of more crazy stuff next week. Make sure to all of our viewers to tune in on YouTube and Instagram next week. And thank y'all for tuning in to our first official live stream. With that being said, thank y'all from inside the locker room, and peace out.